Welcome to The Other Discovery Show, the podcast that's not about other podcasts. It's about all the other things we discovered this week. I'm Josh.
I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach.
Hey guys, I got a bad business idea. It's not mine. It's from Keith. And he labeled it as odd business idea. I still think it's a bad business idea. Froyo Baggins, a Hobbit / Lord of the Rings themed frozen yogurt shop.
I like it already, but I don't know how you incorporate the theme into frozen yogurt.
So we got to think of some of the titles of the frozen yogurts that you can get there.
The one peach ring.
Yep, I got one. The one you would if you go on a date to the Froyo Baggins, you get the one that's an aphrodisiac. So you get your date started right. You've got Bilbo Shaggins Froyo Swaggin' Cream.
Okay.
I got one. Okay, so hipsters are all into like savory ice creams and stuff now, right? So you get the Worcestershire.
Okay.
Get it?
Ew.
Shire.
But it's Worcestershire sauce?
Worcestershire
Disgusting.
frozen yogurt.
Disgusting.
It's the savory yogurt.
I mean,
I'd try
honestly,
it.
what I'd do is I'd just make like a matcha one that was called Long Bottom Leaf.
Yeah, long bottom leaf.
You could knock out of the park with that.
Gimli's meat yogurt.
Gimli's meat yogurt.
That's not an edit. Gimli's meat yogurt. It tastes like meat.
Tastes like meat and beards. None of these are good puns for like something else. The names are all so specific.
You have By My Beard flavored yogurt. You got to give me time to think. I'll think of a golden one. Give me a second.
Eric Corn Chowder.
Eric Corn Chowder. Love it.
The cherry pie of Sauron.
I like that.
I like it. The cherry pie of Sauron.
Boromirli cookies and cream.
Sarum Manchi Nom Noms.
Manchi Nom Noms.
Oh man, what are some other ones we can think of? I can't think of anybody's names in the movie now. I'm on the spot.
Gandolfi.
It's so bad. This is.
Hold on.
We need to just keep trying because none of these are good.
Well, they're not supposed to be good. They're supposed to be bad. Auric High C.
I like that. That's a good one.
It's High C flavored.
How about Mary's Cherry? Sounds.
Who's
Mary? Like Mary and Pippin?
Oh, yeah. He's one of them. Regal Smeagol's Tiddlywheels. What's one with Smeagol? Smeagol's raw fish yogurt.
That's disgusting.
It's for our Norwegian friends. What's the name of the ant?
Treebeard?
Treebeard. I don't think I can make anything out of Treebeard.
Treebeard's weird beer yogurt. I was going to say yoga.
I mean, you could just call it Treat Beard or Treat Beer. So it's like beer and, I don't know, what would be good with beer? Pretzels. Beer and pretzels. Treat Beer.
Treat beer and pretzels.
No, you don't need pretzels.
This is awful.
It's so bad.
But that's the point. It's a bad business idea.
There has to be some kind of a pun for like, in my axe, in my snacks. And it's just filled with random snacks. Sometimes it's Chex Mix. Sometimes it's candy.
Whatever
you never
they
know.
have a surplus of, they just throw that in there.
And it's just called In My Snacks.
All right, so that is our bad business idea of the week. We say it's a bad business idea, but we went to a noodle shop that was completely based off of Dragon Ball Z, and it was working. That place was happening. And I went not too long ago again, and there was a line out the door. Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
Like SOUP.
It is good. It was really good.
And all of the dishes are named after freaking like Dragon Ball Z characters or something. So
I discovered this week something called Rain's Law. And this was during Prohibition era. And in New York, they started really cracking down on drinking. And one of the ways they did that was Rain's Law. And so what they were trying to do is put in things that made it impossible to run these businesses, essentially. So first thing, they made it so there was only certain times you could serve drinks at all. And
like any drinks, even non-alcoholic?
Well, no. Alcoholic drinks. All of this is based on alcoholic drinks. So they made it so like there was specific rules on Sundays. They had to open the blinds on their store on Sundays was one of their things. They had to you had to be visible from outside, because then people that were patrolling during Prohibition era would see that you're serving drinks, and they would get you. And so that was one of the things they did. Another one was they started trying to make it so you could only sell if you were like a hotel. It wasn't something where you could have a bar. It was like if you had other things going on, then you could sell. And so one of the things they had just a ton of rules here. They upped the liquor license cost, so it was 3 times what it was before, and it was 10 times increased for beer only taverns.
So let me clarify real quick, because I thought Prohibition meant there was no alcohol.
There was always alcohol. There was rules.
So Prohibition just mean they had a lot more rules on alcohol?
Prohibition meant that poor people couldn't drink alcohol. I mean, let's get real. So like rich people were drinking, they just were, and bootleggers were a thing. There was never a time where there was no alcohol,
right?
And that's why they always said that like Prohibition failed.
I thought Prohibition was across the board. We're getting rid of alcohol.
It was never that stringent, I don't believe. So I
kind of thought the same thing.
Yeah, no, I
thought at one point all alcohol was illegal.
They made it so that essentially only a few people could even get away with it. There was a lot of people doing it in like
I knew there was speakeasies and all that kind of thing.
Speakeasies, that's just like some kind of backdoor thing, and you don't know who's like involved or if the cops are going to find it. But Raines Law was in 1896, and like I said, they increased the liquor license cost. You couldn't be in 200 feet of a school or a church. It raised the drinking age from 16 to 18, so apparently you used to be able to drink at 16. It also banned the free lunch, which was apparently one of the things that they did to get people in the door, is they give you a free lunch.
Hey, man, so America used to have tapas?
Yeah, pretty much.
Dang.
And it
Prohibition, I hate Prohibition more and more every day.
and it also it did not work, if that makes you feel any better. And then also it had one of those things that it got rid of the golden hour grace period that followed the stroke of midnight on Saturday. So Sundays became much more like intense. You had to have the curtains open all day. And so
there's still random laws about Sunday in a lot of places.
Yeah, and there's still dry counties. There's dry counties still.
Well, even in Florida, you can't buy alcohol before like 11 o'clock on Sundays.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be in church.
Different
not
areas
buying
are
alcohol.
worse.
Yeah.
Like where I live, it's 1 o'clock. I think a county over from us all day, you can't buy it anywhere. It's so weird, some of the laws that are still in place from this really dumb time that we had. And it maybe didn't get rid of alcohol, but apparently it got rid of tapas.
Yeah. So, okay, the law went into effect, and it started killing just small businesses, bars, and things like that. But they had a loophole, and it was what I was talking about, where it allowed lodging houses with 10 rooms or more to serve guests drinks with meals 7 days a week. So that is what people were looking at. And not incidentally, wealthy New Yorkers tended to dine out at the Citizens' ritzy hotel restaurants on Sundays, the usual day off for live-in servants. And this is all from Atlas Obscura, a really awesome website. They have a division called Gastro Obscura, which is kind of just cool historical food stories. I've always liked
their articles.
Yeah. It's a really good website. We'll link in the show notes. It's a really cool article. But because it left that wiggle room for rich people, hotel owners, but people were like, okay, so I have to have 10 rooms. So what people started to do is all the saloon owners would take their basement and they would make 10 rooms out of it.
Just make walls everywhere.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we have 10 rooms down here. And you also had to serve it with a meal. And so this is what I think is the funniest part of this, because the article is actually called "To Evade Pre-Prohibition Drinking Laws, New Yorkers Created the World's Worst Sandwich." And what that means is bars would do, like I said, they would set up 10 rooms, air quotes. They would find some way to say, we have 10 rooms here. And then they would serve people a sandwich that was completely inedible. Like completely garbage. I need to find...
Was it made out of rocks? And then you just gave it back and they'd put it on the next table so they could get...
Yeah, so they made all these... They made their rooms and they started dishing up the easiest, cheapest, most reusable meal they could get away with. The Rain Sandwich. So they named after the guy's law. And so first of all, some of these people were like, I'm going to give people a cracker and say, okay, here's lunch. And then the law enforcement said, I would not say that a cracker is a complete meal in itself, but a sandwich is. So they're like, okay, we can do that as well. So some of these hotels literally had one sandwich ever. They had one sandwich that they would give it to you when they gave you your drink Nobody ate it. I don't think it was even tempting. I think they're like, okay, I'm going to just not get near that thing and I'm going to drink. Playwright Eugene O'Neill described this as an old desiccated ruin of dust-laden bread and mummified ham or cheese. And other times it was made of rubber and completely inedible. And they would give you the sandwich with the drink, and sometimes they would take it right back, literally seconds later, because they go take it with the next drink. It would literally be one sandwich for these place. And so all these different Rains bars, as they called them, started popping up where they would just give you a garbage sandwich so they could give you a drink. And I just love that entire idea of like, they're going to find a way to work around the system so they can give you drinks. And it came in the form of a rubber sandwich, one sandwich that stayed until I guess it evaporated completely or just like fell apart, or a cracker. There's a bar that's still open and they still serve. It's like crackers and cheese and a raw onion with the drinks. It's just so funny.
No, that's a real speakeasy. They still serve the gross like thing they have to serve back in the day.
It's interesting though, because hotel bars are still a thing, and I'm sure that's probably where it came from and where it originated. Is that hotels all have their own bar and they have their signature drinks, and it's a whole thing. So it's really interesting to hear some of the history behind that.
That is really cool, and I don't know, that whole era is interesting, and I don't know, it's weird, and I don't get it, but at the same time, it kind of gave us history to what we have now and stuff like that.
So I don't know if this is peak society or the lowest point society's reached, but Wendy's has released a massive Dungeons and Dragons style tabletop RPG.
What?
Wendy's?
Wendy's, the red-haired woman burger joint, has released a D&D themed tabletop RPG. You heard that correctly. And it's called Feast of Legends, and it is 97 pages. It is a full game, so it tells you like how to play it, has all the rule sets in it, and it also has a like setting. So it's like, here's the area you're in, here's the like the different types of people that are there, here's the different classes and things like that. So like D&D, you've got the dice rolls, you've got everything else like that, you've got warriors, you've got all the different stuff like that. But it automatically chooses, like, you choose like a class and different things like that. And the best part is it's very heavily Wendy's themed.
See, that's what throws me off, man. It sounds like an awesome game, I'm not going to lie, until you talk about Wendy.
Honestly,
theme.
I feel like this is just weird enough. It might be good.
So you can augment your hero's stats by spending gold on Wendy's themed weapons. So you can get like a spork or an arm, or their armor is red polo, black visor.
See, that's what I'm saying. They don't take themselves too seriously, and it might make it really fun.
I mean, Honey Heist is really fun, and it's about bears trying to get honey.
And so it's got a starting campaign as well, which's got towns, maps, puzzles, and monsters. And it's got ridiculous stuff in there. So let me see if I can find some of the specifics.
It would be so great if like the bad guys were not quite like McDonald's or their competitors' characters, but that they were. It's like instead of the Hamburglar, it's like the ham robber.
The ham robber.
So
the ham thief.
So for example, you can make a party where the Frosty Ice Wizard can grant an automatic buff to the Rogue Healer hybrid represented by French fries. And the dual-wielding trait name is 2 beef patties.
2 beef patties.
I'll say this for Wendy's. Have you guys ever gotten just like a fries and a Frosty? That is the snack of champions.
So, I've never been big on the sweet and salty thing, so I've never done the fries and Frosty. I've done them separately, never done them together.
It's delicious.
So they've basically created the Wendy's verse, and it's set in a massive nation called Beef's Keep. And they say you can dip a sacred chicken nugget into a magical fountain and it becomes a key. You can face off against a villain known as the Beef Bandit. This sounds so good.
The Beef Bandit, see? They are doing it.
There's an optional buff or penalty based on whatever you eat at your gaming table of choice. So if you ordered Wendy's, you get stat bonuses. But it's a free PDF and it's 97 pages.
Is the boss like Ronald McNally or something?
They have like things about like clowns and things like that in there.
I'm telling you,
it's very
the bad
much
guys are their competitors.
It's honestly, it sounds decently fun. I bet it's pretty fun to play.
It's
at one point you have to fight Carl Sr.
So here's the thing that blows my mind, and I didn't know
And the
this.
Burger Prince.
What's worse is that Burger King has created a game called Sneak King, and KFC has created a dating simulator game.
I did see that, and that one looks disturbing. I'm sorry, that one bothers me.
There's like anime dating simulator games that are like a thing.
That's a thing, but they made one.
KFC made one called "I Love You, Colonel Sanders."
Oh, God.
So,
and the Colonel looks like a hipster svelte dude. It's real weird.
There's something happening, and I don't know if it's good or bad yet. We'll have to wait and see, but
Time will tell.
I do like the fact that they've decided that just stupid marketing through TV commercials and spamming you is not working. So they've decided to put some effort towards their marketing content, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Them being creative is the reason that outlets, news outlets, or whatever are talking about it anymore. Because all advertising had gotten so ubiquitous, no one gave a crap anymore. But this random stuff, freaking IHOP changing their name to IHOB for like a day, or just leaking that they were going to change
triggering
it,
the whole world.
and everyone went nuts just because they were going to start serving burgers, and their burgers are garbage anyway.
I mean, honestly, give me Waffle House over IHOP any day. Any day. But it is funny to see them kind of trying to get outside the box a little bit, do something different. Think outside the box, isn't that
That's
Taco Bell?
Think outside the bun.
Oh, yep.
So thinking of just the denigration of our society, we have a discovery from our friend of the show, Jordan, from the Podcast Discovery Club.
Shout out Podcast Discovery Club.
Yeah, if you guys have a discovery, join the club. We tell you all of our weekly discoveries, not weekly, daily discoveries, our daily discos. So the article that he sent, a 600-pound camel sat on a Florida woman, so she bit its testicle to escape. And that in itself kind of is
Ridiculous.
a ridiculous headline. But the story, guys, it's so much better. And it makes it so much more buck wild. And I feel like I have to read it in a redneck voice because that's the way that it is written. After her dog got in a camel's pen at a Louisiana truck stop petting zoo, a Florida woman was forced to bite the testicle of the 600-pound animal after it decided to sit on her. Authorities with the Iberville Parish Sheriff's Office told the Advocate that the testicle biting incident began last Wednesday, September 13th at the Tiger truck stop in Groose Tet, when the woman's husband was tossing treats to the couple's small dog near Casper the camel's pen. The dog then ventured into the enclosure, forcing them to climb past warning signs and under a barbed wire fence to retrieve the family pet. After getting inside the cage, the couple allegedly shoved the animal and swatted at it with a hat, which resulted in Casper sitting down on top of the wife. She then freed herself by biting the dromedary's testicle, or D's nuts, if you will. That's the article. I'm reading the article verbatim. I think this is the deputy. He's quoted at the end saying, "The camel has never been aggressive. The camel has never gotten out, never caused any issues. In fact, the husband and wife stated before they've been here before, and they've never had any problem. The couples whose names were not released were cited for a leash violation." She should have went to jail for animal cruelty.
That's the ending right there. No, that's
Don't yuck that camel's yum. Maybe it liked it.
apparently not. But it apparently really didn't like getting hit with a hat.
I love how its defense mechanism is, I'm going to sit on you.
I mean, if it weighed 600 pounds, it's pretty effective. That's crazy. Well, I mean, it sounds like everybody made it out of it okay. She got a ticket for not having her dog on a leash, which really was the problem. If you go back to what the problem was, it's that you let your dog get in the pen with a camel.
Or at least throw your treats not inside the cage with the camel. Like, so many just bad decisions.
Yeah, there was a
a
lot of ways this could have gone differently, but
And maybe don't stop at a truck stop petting zoo.
who knew those existed?
Did not.
Boy,
that was a
that's
thing.
a Louisiana thing. Let's clear the air here. That's not a Florida thing. That's a Louisiana thing that has the truck stop petting zoo.
I mean, I definitely have never seen that.
This is one of the things where I will have to say this was probably an actual Florida woman, a woman
It
from
does seem that
Florida,
way, yeah.
instead of a tourist in Florida.
Yep.
We'll have to take it on that one.
But yeah, thank you, Jordan, for
That was
letting
one of
us.
ours.
Thank you, Jordan, for letting us know about a really weird Florida woman story. So I have been on this kind of binge of miniseries on HBO, and one of the ones I've recently done is John Adams. Have you guys seen that show?
I haven't. I didn't know it was out.
Nope.
I didn't know what it was.
It's been out for 10 years.
I'm going to have to find it.
It's amazing. So good. Paul Giamatti is John Adams. Tom Wilkinson's in it. Laura Linney. Amazing cast. And you get to watch some of the political intrigue and drama behind the founding of America. And it's a really good show. Highly recommend it. But in the show, John Adams is pretty awesome. So I looked into John Adams just in general. As a founding father, he was in Congress when it was just the colonies, so it was a very limited number of people. So he had influence over kind of the political decisions from a very early time. He was instrumental in literally the Declaration of Independence. He became our second president. His son became our sixth president. Throughout the show, he has all these, and he started as a lawyer. The first episode of the show is he is defending some of the British soldiers who were involved in the Boston Massacre, which he actually did. And it was because he believed so much in the law that he took on a case that was political, social, everything suicide at the time, because everybody was getting upset about everything going on with how we were being represented in England and how we were being treated. And then there was this huge fight and people were shot in the street and it got ugly. And he took the case of the British people because he believed that much in the law. And he knew that for us to be taken seriously, we had to uphold the law above any kind of stuff. And so he seemed really interesting. And throughout the show, he's also writing letters back and forth with his wife, Abigail. And all of these letters are preserved and transcribed because they're intense. But he's just a really interesting writer. And I'll read you one of his things because some of the founding fathers, obviously, during that time, there was slavery. And so there was a lot of moral ambiguity because they would say one thing and then they were owning slaves, and that's not good. But I'll read you a quote. Well, I'll paraphrase it because he says just a word that I'm not really comfortable saying, so I'm going to paraphrase that out. But it just in general, he's a really interesting guy. He said, "I have through my whole life held the practice of slavery in such abhorrence that I've never owned a person or any other slave, though I've lived for many years in times when the practice was not disgraceful, when the best men in my vicinity thought it not inconsistent with their character, and when it has cost me thousands of dollars for the labor and subsistence of free men, which I might have saved by the purchase of slaves at a time when they were very cheap." And then another quote I want to read to you about him is he wrote a letter to Abigail when he was in Boston he was in Philadelphia. And this was on July 3rd, 1776. And I'll read you an excerpt from this because, as I'm sure you guys can figure out, this is the day before Independence Day. Mm-hmm. And so it's really kind of crazy to read his thoughts on this because he worked with Thomas Jefferson on writing the Declaration of Independence. And it's a whole episode on the show where they're thinking about when are we going to release this? How is it going to be received? Because it essentially is saying we're not putting up with what you're doing anymore. Time has been given for the whole people maturely to consider the great question of independence and to ripen their judgments, dissipate their fears, and allure their hopes, by discussing it in the newspapers and pamphlets, by debating it in assemblies, conventions, committees of safety and inspection, in town and county meetings, as well as in private conversations, so that the whole people in every colony of the 13 have now adopted it as their own act. This will cement the Union, and avoid those heats and perhaps convulsions which might have occasioned by such a declaration 6 months ago. But the day is past. The 2nd day of July, 1776, will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. I'm apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorated as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shoes, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward, forevermore. You will think me transported with enthusiasm, but I am not. I'm well aware of the toil and blood and treasure that it will cost us to maintain this declaration and support and defend these states. Yet through all the gloom, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory. I can see that the end is more than worth the means, and that posterity will triumph in that day's transaction, even although we should rue it, which I trust in God we shall not.
So basically, he knew
how important that day was. The day before the 4th of July, he knew what it meant. And this was a letter just to his wife. This wasn't like to a newspaper. This was to his wife. And it was just really interesting. And so I'll link all this stuff. You can check out a bunch of letters to his wife. And some of them aren't like this political, but she was like his confidant too. Like they were a team in like his political dealings as well. But also they had some stuff where like he went to Paris for I think like a year, and she had 4 kids or something like that. And so they had a lot of stuff where they were just writing back and forth and missing each other, and just a really interesting guy. And one of the things I'll say about the show is it's really interesting to see the founding fathers not as facts and like here's a couple notations about what they did, but as people who had like fears and like conflict and maybe even self-consciousness, insecurities. And it really paints them in that way, and it's a really good show.
It's hard looking back, especially like the way that we're taught in school and stuff like that, because we focus on, either the really, really bad stuff or really, really good stuff. And, specifically for the founding fathers and stuff like that, we kind of idolize them in ways where it makes it hard to see them as humans. And that kind of stuff really does bring it back to they were just people.
Yeah, and that's what this show does very well. It's really good. Highly recommended. And John Adams is a cool guy, so I'll link some articles if you guys want to check him out.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to look more into him. He sounds like a phenomenal person and being one of our founding fathers. And it's one of those things where everyone has seen and listened to Hamilton, and it's one of those things where people are like, oh, our founding fathers had some really cool stories about them. And what you hear in history class is not everything. And there's a lot more detail.
And I mean, this is the first vice president of the United States. This is the second president
of the United States.
And so it's just interesting to get more context on somebody that kind of it becomes almost a footnote in our minds from history class.
So I was perusing the Today I Learned subreddit today, and I found 2 quick Today I Learned that just went so well together. They're a little bit goofy, but they're from really reputable websites, and I just wanted to tell both of you about them. This one's from the LA Times, and it's Today I learned that over 100 marijuana plants sprouted on the Anaheim Stadium playing field in 1976 after the Who played a concert there.
That's great.
That's ridiculous.
Great? What would be funny is if like they didn't come to like clean up the stadium for like a week or 2 afterward, and then they get there and like they get in trouble for growing marijuana.
Who's growing pot over here?
Oh, I love that so much.
It would seem intentional if it was like all over the place like that. That's ridiculous.
That is so funny. And I like this one even better, and this is from The Guardian, and it is that in 2009, Tasmanian opium farmers discovered circles and patterns in their crops, and they wondered, what is this? Come to find out, it turns out that it was wallabies getting high and bouncing around in circles. Maybe that's what crop circles have been all along.
That is even better than crop circles, honestly. I mean,
it's been animals getting high.
Would be cool, but wallabies getting high and just jumping around in a circle, that's really good. I like that a lot.
There's a lot of animals that like to get high. We talked about reindeers getting high a couple weeks ago. So I got a Florida story. So Bradenton, which is south of Tampa Bay area, and there's a farmer there. So Kirk, you're going to like this one. He's growing edible bamboo in response to a lot of our citrus trees dying through the disease that came through and wiped out a ton of citrus in Florida.
Yeah.
So he started growing edible bamboo because it doesn't fall victim to the same kind of diseases that the citrus trees were. And they've grown citrus trees for 81 years on their property. So they say they're the first farm in the U.S. to grow edible organic bamboo.
I didn't know that bamboo was edible in any form.
It is. Yeah, I think it's the shoots usually, right? Like immature bamboo.
I have heard bamboo shoots.
Yep,
I guess
it is shoots. And basically they're selling bamboo shoots, and they say they taste like artichoke. Basically, the bamboo shoots do.
Sounds good.
And they say they're full of antioxidants and vitamins, which I'm sure it's full of some sort of something, and they're advertising it as antioxidant and purifying to get all the bugs.
It's a young plant. It seems like it's probably like a microgreen, but giant.
Yeah, but I love the idea that, hey, they lost 300 acres of citrus on their farm. So now they're like, all right, well, we got to pivot. and now they're growing edible bamboo and selling it. So they're trying to make that a thing. So hopefully it works out for them. It'd be awesome to kind of create a new
all the other
trendy food source.
citrus farms are just turning into subdivisions, so
Yeah.
that's better.
Yeah, it's definitely good.
No one was eating kale like 10 years ago. So maybe
Yeah, whoever those marketers were, it's
maybe
great.
bamboo shoots are the next kale where everyone's going to be eating them.
Who knows? I'll try them though. Well, the last discovery this week is the Discovery Band, and this week it is Foxwarren. They are from the Canadian prairies of Saskatchewan. Andy Schaff, Dallas Bryson, and Daryl and Avery Kissick are all from Regina, Saskatchewan. The band is actually named after a family home in Manitoba, Foxwarren, and they are kind of an interesting down-tempo almost rock, but it's really, really good. I love their vibe that they put out for sure. And the song that I'd like to recommend is called Fall Into a Dream from their self-titled album, Foxwarren. As always, let us know if you had any discoveries this week. We love to hear them on the Podcast Discovery Club, on our Twitter, on anything else. Thank you for listening, and enjoy Fall Into a Dream by Foxwarren.
Bye, guys.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.